Okay, now for the most difficult problem we've worked on so far. Triangles ABC and PQR are shown below. The given side lengths are in centimeters. The area of triangle ABC is 30 square centimeters. Let's just write that down for now. Area of triangle ABC equals 30 centimeters squared. What is the area of triangle PQR? So how are we going to solve this? Well, there are a couple of different approaches I'm going to show you. The first approach we're going to take is if you are a trig master and you remember this, there was a formula for the area of a triangle that looked like this. The area of a triangle equals 1/2 AB sine C. You're supposed to use this when you're given two sides of a triangle and the included angle, which we have here. So the area of the first triangle, it is simply 1/2 xy sine 70 degrees. The area of the next triangle would be 1/2, also the two sides are xy, sine 110 degrees. So what you got to do is ask yourself, how are these similar? Because I know this is equal to 30, and I'm looking for what this is equal to, right? So once again, those of you who are amazingly good at trig might recognize this very quickly. But sine 70 and sine 110 are actually the same. So let's draw a quick unit circle here. 70 degrees is going to be right about here. 110 degrees is going to be right around here. And the reference angle for the two angles that I've drawn are going to be identical, which means that the y values here are going to be the same. And those of you who are unit circle pros know that the y value is equal to the sine value. Therefore, I already know that sine 70 equals sine 110, from which I can deduce that these two areas are exactly the same. Therefore, the answer is just going to be 30. Of course, some of you didn't understand a word of what I just said, so I'm going to show you a different approach to do this as well. So for those of you who are not very good with the trig, you still have to know a little bit, and I'm sure most of you remember this. You probably learned this in geometry, right? So to find the area of this triangle, well, the typical formula for area of a triangle that you learned in like 3rd grade is 1/2 base times height. So I don't have a base or height here, so I'm going to reorient it so I at least have a base. So I'm going to draw the triangle this way, where this will be the x, that's the 70 degrees, and this is the y. And the height I'm looking for is here. So in this case, the base is just x, and the height is this blue line here. Well, how do I find the height? Well, this is where the SOHCAHTOA is going to come into play. When you draw a height, we know that it's perpendicular to the base, so that's 90 degrees. And we know that this is y and this is x. So how can we find the height in terms of x or y? So we can pick. I'm going to use the one that has y in it. So I know that h over y is opposite over adjacent, right? Which means I have to use the sine function. So I can write sine 70 degrees equals h over y. Remember, we're trying to rewrite this in terms of x and y only. So to solve for the h, I get y sine 70 degrees equals h. So I can plug that in for h here. And then the base, like I said, is just x. So this is going to be equal to 1/2 x y sine 70. Notice that's what we had before with that formula I showed you before. But this is for people who don't memorize that formula, which is probably most of you. We can use the same exact logic to figure out the area of this triangle. So that triangle, if we have x here, it's going to look like this, where this is y and this is 110 degrees. The height of this triangle is not going to be inside the triangle, it's going to be outside. So we have to extend it. But then the math is pretty much the same. So we have this triangle here. I draw it separately. It's the right triangle. This is y. There, we don't really care about the x. This is the height. And this is, since that's 110, this angle here is 70 degrees. So this triangle is basically the same as the one I drew before. So once again, we have sine 70 degrees equals h over y, and h equals y sine 70. So the area of the second triangle is actually going to be exactly the same. Right, it's going to be 1/2 x y sine 70. So since we know the area of the first triangle is 30, the second triangle is also going to be 30. So these are two different ways that I've shown you to find it. If you're a visual thinker, what you can also do is simply draw the two triangles next to each other, and it'll look like this, where this is x, this is 70 degrees, and then they both have y. Right? You can imagine inverting this triangle and then putting it over here. And then you'll realize they do have the same height, and therefore they're going to have the same area. But those are for only the really, really astute people. So that's a couple of ways you can solve this problem. So in general, my advice would be just try whatever. Just work with the information given to you and just see if you can figure anything out based on this relationship.